il me fait un grand plaisir d'être avec vous à Montréal. Merci sur votre accueil. Not so sure I did it really well, but good morning, everybody. I have a good friend helping me to be able to write those specific words and this greeting to you. I'm really grateful to have been invited to share this time with you. Also, hopefully it will be of your interest, but also to be with all of you learning since yesterday about your experiences or the purpose that had been presented during the day yesterday, and I'm sure that will be an exciting day today. So that I would like to start with my presentation now. I think I have a very precise time. My clock already tells me that I have 33 minutes left. It will be quite stressful to do it that way because I tend to speak a lot. So let's see if I can adjust myself to this short talk. Well, I'm coming from the Basque region of Spain. We have a lot of similarities. They told me even Quebec and the Basque region are quite like brothers regions or something like that. So that, but it's quite interesting to understand that our region is in the cross-border area. There is a part of the Basque region that belongs to France and the other one to Spain. And this cross-border region has a lot of mobility. In our region, very small one, really small, smaller than Quebec. Only in the border side, really between San Sebastian and Biarritz, but are about 25 kilometers. We have more than 30 million people crossing the border. So that the mobility is great. So now coming back to my topic and sort of thinking about measurement. The very first thing I think is that performance measurement is not an end in itself. I may know that we have 30 million travelers or visitors or tourists going across. But I think we should measure to performance, basically, because it may help us to achieve specific purposes. Maybe as managers or public managers, such as we may want to evaluate or to monitor or to budget, to measure impacts, to motivate something or even promote the region, celebrate, learn, improve. But basically, when I think about measurement nowadays, for me, and more important than ever, is to measure in order to model and to anticipate. Because world is changing very fast. So we can measure to look back and understand, but also we can measure to model and look forward and anticipate, or even to create. So that I would like to sort of put you in this context, and also I would like to tell you something else in this sort of introduction. Context of the measurement is very important. It was actually pointed out yesterday by Professor Larry Dwyer about the context of this measurement. And the context where we measure what is our world, our society, is changing really fast. So it's very important also to keep into account the context and understand the context in which the measurements are taking place. So that perhaps when they say that our center has a different approach to social sciences, it is true. Because we believe that our context is changing. And there is a great asset in our context that is technology. And technology could be used to better measure, assess the phenomena, in this case, the human mobility. And perhaps it could help us not only to understand what is very, very important, but also to anticipate. But in order to anticipate, it's not enough to measure. We need also to model. So that my talk pretty much will be today has 4 parts, organized in 4 different sections. I will take some time to talk about the context first. Then I will give you a very short, brief look at the literature review, because there has been a lot of interesting research and authors that have already worked in tourism measurement and flows measurement. And we are taking that into account, and we have studied all of it very seriously, because we don't believe that we can move forward without understanding what other scholars and technical and stakeholders, also a lot of people. There is a lot of intelligence in the society. We believe in this community intelligence, so that we have understand or take some time to review the literature. But I will go really fast on that, and then I will stop a little bit to explain you our work. And let's see how you like it, our work, how we are approaching measurement and for what purposes. And finally, I will be sort of going into this conclusion section. But with 20 minutes left, I will start. Okay. So, the very first thing is about the context. And in the context, I would like to underline 3 different ideas. The very first one, the importance of the territory, the region. Territory has acquired importance in competitiveness studies for a number of reasons, but one of them is the increased importance of microeconomic factors to the detriment of the macroeconomic factors as decisive features of competitiveness. The competitiveness of the region is a very important issue in order to address the global competition. And I put that slide here because it's quite interesting to see how the market, the global market, has been evolving. Open up to this 44% that is now under others. But who are those others? What destinations? In my opinion, since I have such a short time, I will not put all the rationale behind it, but well, later maybe in questions we may talk about it. Under those 44%, we have regions, great opportunities for regions to compete, because the structure of the market is not as much the nations, but the regions. But in this new competitive environment, for those regions to succeed, they must harness their own mix of assets, skills, ideas, to compete in this global market that is right now in this new context, technology-mediated context. And this is an issue that should be taken into account. So the first idea, the importance of the regions in the competitiveness model, and also the great opportunities, but the fair competition that we need to address in these global markets. In some ways, I think that also this global market also responds to the magnitude of human mobility. There are many reasons, but one of them is the magnitude of this human mobility, and we can see it down in the last, I would say, numbers. The last decades have seen this exponential growth, and I like when Professor Yuri from Lancaster University, I'm pretty sure you know him as a great sociologist of tourism, argues that the traditional basis of sociology, the study of the society, is outmoded, since it is increasingly borderless work. So I think that distances in space and time are increasingly less clear due to the proximity offered by technology development. For example, technological changes have extended the distance we can cover in a day. I like to explain the idea about how things have changed in 100 years. And I give you a really short story, because my grandmother used to tell me that. It's the story of my grandmother. I'm from San Sebastian City, just in the border. Later on, we'll see some maps. And for her, when my grandmother got married, she was from 1898, and she got married in 1923. And when she got married, for her honeymoon, she went to Bilbao. Bilbao is 100 kilometers away from San Sebastian. That was a great trip. She was born in a farm, and she had to get really early from her bed, about 3 in the morning, get ready, walk up to the first train station that she could reach walking, but it was in a little town that is called Irún, in the border. And then finally, she could get the train in order to reach Bilbao. That took about 16 hours. And her knowledge and understanding of Bilbao was about the word of mouth. And it was such a exotic city, very metropolitan city for her, because she was born in a farm. That was a very long day trip. Nowadays, in one day, in 16 hours, we can travel to what? Singapore? To Shanghai? Any place in the world. And it's even less exotic in our perception because we know so much about it than Bilbao for my grandma. So definitely technology has changed our ability, our perception of the distance and time and the world itself. So the second idea was this one. And definitely it is because we are little by little moving to this technology-mediated life world. As humanity and technologies have progressed, they have also become more intertwined until the contemporary notion of self extends far beyond the physical into this cyberspace. Technology has become an essential part of who we are or we take ourselves to be. It was already pointed out in this introduction. It was in French, so hopefully I did understand well about this survey, the questionnaire, and also, what's our willingness, how much we use technology, not just for travel purposes, but for everyday life. Just think about kids, how they communicate. I have a son, 12 years old. He doesn't use email to communicate with his friends. He uses his social networks, that in Spain is 20 for teenagers, and he communicates through 20. And he uses the smartphone all the time. And when I go to pick him up, then he takes my phone to play some games or to sort of join other networks that maybe he cannot because he has restricted, a phone. So that you can see that technology has become part of our everyday life. Right now, with these, sensors and moving on, to these smart homes, we can program our refrigerator, our, laundry machine, or whatever thing. So little by little, we are sort of coming into this convergence between the physical, the social, and the cyberspace. So this is something also that I would like you to take into account, because little by little, we are moving to these smart cities. Since the cost of all these sensors and technologies drop down, we have been able to start developing these important platforms that integrate in the cloud all type of information, all type of registers about weather, temperature, room temperature, and so on. So we know that little by little we'll be moving to a new type of environment, a smarter environment. So this is also important to understand where tourism as services, as new innovation, regional new innovation companies or entrepreneurship could be taking place with those advanced services, or premium services at hotels or other type of establishments. So that I would like here to finish with this first part and put you in that context, because the measurements we are going to show, or that we are exploring right now, or the way we are approaching measurement and modeling, is to fit our studies or our vision in that world. And also, the services of the companies, because the most important thing is that in the center we have the person, people we living in that world, not in the world of 1980s. So that our measures and tools in order to support private corporates, public managers have to be little by little moving forward these new environments. So that we believe that the commitment and the mission of the scholars, researchers like I am, is to support those processes. We cannot do everything by ourselves. And it's very important to understand that the knowledge that we have to create, that the knowledge we need to support all those processes, can be only built by our own selves. We have to build that by acting, by interacting, by doing with all the stakeholders in the ecosystem. So that the way that we approach measurement also implies in many ways the involvement and the joint, of the other stakeholders or agents of the society. So when we created the center to perhaps start approaching social sciences with these differences, in the point of view of what have been more traditional social sciences, because we were computer scientists, mathematicians, engineers, and social scientists overall together. Our teams are hybrid. The very first thing we said to ourselves is that, how are we doing our job? Are we doing it right? How are we approaching measurements or other issues that are important questions? Not because it is a stream of the literature, but because it concerns to our world. So that we can, I have this sentence I really like, put knowledge into action. It's not the knowledge for the sake of the knowledge. So that we are starting, we have different research lines looking at tourism movements, and we understand that the research is a very complex process of understanding the physical movement. And so that the very first thing that we did was to start looking at the different literature that has been, that had approached this phenomena. Give me a second. Okay. So, as I told you in the beginning, we are already in the second part of the presentation. And hold on, please. What I would like to do now is to give you really a snapshot of what the literature on this concern has been. And the technologies very much have allowed us to look back at all the literature, and also to look back at all the ways that we have understand the flows and enable, measure the flows, so that we can now understand that flows can be measured as points, spatial points, and there is some literature that have looked at the macro level, and there is other literature that has been looking more at the micro level. The macro level has been studied, let's say, until 2000, because it examines discrete sequences of movements among tourist locations which can be a distance apart, like in between destinations or countries. But the micro level allows us to look at the movements as a continuous processes. So going back, hold on, sorry. Going back to the literature, we can see that for since 1980 could be even earlier. A lot of literature has been developed to address the measurement issue, from observational methods to non-observational methods, some pretty much using traditional techniques, other ones later on using more technology. So we have seen that research first have focused primarily on the flows of visitors between destinations, as I said, macro level, few subnational information. We have very few things about, a city information or regional information, and space-time diaries have been basically the tools being used in order to gather this knowledge. science technology advances have been handy for researchers in the field of digital systems, such as GPS. We have seen that new approaches to this flow analysis have been boosted. And I would like to underline those authors because they have done a great job, like McKercher or Chauval or Xia, as I already cited. Some of them had worked in Japan, other one they are from Jerusalem Israeli University and in Australia. Pretty much they had worked up to that point where you can see the GPS satellite sign. But we are trying to move a little bit forward toward open data, linked data paradigm. But I will explain that to you later on. It is also important to take into account that in the literature, also there is another, stream of the research that had been focusing on modeling the tourist wayfinding decision-making processes. So one thing is the physical point, and the other thing, trying to understand itineraries and how tourists or people make those decisions. And there is a lot of literature that we could pull into these modeling issues like risk, uncertainty reduction, or multi-benefit seeking, or typologies, or packagings. Or, there is a lot of different literature that have been addressing this wayfinding or modeling, trying to model the why of the mobility. Okay, so with that, I wanted to give some credit, to the existing work. So I will be moving to what we have been doing. We pretty much have developed a system that allows us to measure, to analyze, to monitor, and start modeling the tourist flows. So that with this system we can understand better the space-time activity of the visitors in the destination, identify the scale of destinations based on real mobility. We can recognize the most and less frequent places. We can recognize black spots, or black, I think it's black, I wanted to say, and analyze the differences of behavior depending on the type of visitors. So the system pretty much has two sides. This is the architecture, has a client side where we sort of put all the personal data, and then the server side where the visualization is analyzed. Well, there are a lot of issues that we need to take into account when we have to work with this data, because it takes a lot of preparation of the data, as well as we have to create new type of variables such as calculation of time, distances, speeds between tracking points. We have to calculate new categorical variables such as time zones, mode of transport, and so on. So that the system starts, this is my city, starts helping us to understand where are the flows and how those flows are concentrated. Also provides us the opportunity to start understanding how they are distributed in the territory. These are how visitors in the month of August use the Basque Coast, the Côte Basque in white. Let me see, there is a pointer here. I only can do it in one side. This is the white line, is the frontier between France and Spain. All of this is the Basque region. And this is Bayonne-Biarritz, the land. And here, San Sebastian, down there will be Bilbao. So that we can start analyzing how people move in the cross-border area. Or we can also go and look at how, like people, staying visitors, hosted in the accommodations on San Sebastian, use the territory versus visitors accommodated in Bilbao. You can see the differences, how the visitors staying in San Sebastian will use the coast and the territory versus the ones hosted in Bilbao or the ones hosted in Vitoria. These are three different cities of the Basque region. But not only we can do at this territorial site, but also we can zoom and even go closer and start understanding how they are concentrated in the city and how they move. You will see later on. So that we can start now understanding what are the itineraries that visitors sort of create, and what are the main points by the density of those flows that visitors actually use. For that, we can also start having some points about understanding what are the real attractions of the city. Not because we think they are attractions, but because they are the places where visitors stay longer. Okay? But before I told you that the way we address research is also by understanding how we interact with different stakeholders. So at the same time that we have started developing those applications in order to better analyze the tourist flows, we also have developed this platform that provides stakeholders the opportunity to monitor the flows in real time by just having a very easy menu where they can filter, the different mobilities, and they can know what's happening today in the city or what's happening at 11 in the morning. What does 11 in the morning mean for my city? Are there differences in the time consumption, in the time spent? And we can start zoning the city. Or now moving forward, not just looking at the physical point, but also moving and trying to understand how can we aggregate data from open sources like social media and other type of data available to sort of create a better understanding of what this specific physical point means. Moving forward, we also started working on measuring emotions so that there are another domains of those flows, not just having the physical, aggregating, this is all automatic, aggregating understanding from these open data, leaking data frameworks, but also some emotions, so that we can start understanding what are the emotional domains, patterns of the territory. Does people feel safe or anxious, or how do people feel about these places? Moving even forward, trying to understand the relationship between those flows and commerce. Shopping can be a big thing, and in San Sebastian, it's a real big thing, because that the Basque Coast in France, like Biarritz and Bayonne and all the Basque Coast, has a lot of visitors also from France. Paris it's a real important market, and they come to shop to a city. So for us, all these day visits and shopping is quite important, so that we have developed applications not to provide services, but to measure those behavior, understand better how those shopping patterns are taking place in the city. So that 7 minutes left. So I would like now to share, maybe I went too fast, but I was concerned about the time. So that I would like to share with you some of the implications of what we have been doing. Hopefully I didn't go too fast, and you may have some questions later on. But what we have analyzed, or what we take from these studies, the very first thing is that we have improved the overall quality data, that there is a reduction of data entry error, because it's based on objective observation. Reduction of recall bias for short trips or same-day visits, more sequencing and harmonization because of the use of algorithms. We can improve the timeliness. We have less collecting and processing time near real-time results. So pretty much from one day to another way, we can, even if we wanted or needed, we could monitor in real time. There is a clear reduction of burden or respondents and administrations. It can be an additional source of information for the tourism system or statistics. We always think that those new approaches are not an alternative, are complementary to the traditional statistics, and that both systems have to be maintained. Additional indicators also to cover existing gaps, such as flows of non-residents not staying at rented accommodation, also could be analyzed with those type of systems. So that I think that this new look provides a lot of opportunities to start understanding better the flows. In addition, I think we also can get more information that previously was not available about the meaning of time, or the specific patterns, how they move from one place to another, movement patterns of tourists within a geographical area, also very detailed at the regional or destination level. We can even understand or analyze event visits in very small areas. We can guide repeat visits by IPs. Prediction also by modeling of tourists moving from one attraction to another one, because then we can develop some algorithms, and based on how much time they have spent in this first attraction versus in the second one, then we can start predicting like where will be the next attraction, or how long they could stay in a specific place. Also, we can sort of understand better the route they may choose to follow up, outcomes on the transition probability matrix to estimate the number of tourists, decide on the placement of pathways or estimates to make the ecosystem or value chain more efficient. Also a lot of recommendations for different stakeholders like food, beverages, and so on. Moving forward, I said in the beginning, that it was not only an issue about measurement, what was the purpose and the context. So moving forward, I think this type of measurements and understanding of the mobilities and paths will also support in the future new advanced services, such as the ones based on m-commerce and m-marketing. That persuasive systems will be very, very important in the future, so that we can communicate better in a context-based, more personalized, with the visitor, and give them, a more precise and transparent information and services. Not just shopping. Well, this is not the dating, Some people say, are you trying to push? No, it's not the dating. It's just a way to show the transparency of the system, so that we can share information, who we are, whether we like to, share some time with someone or meet someone. Many times when we travel, we like to meet local people. This is a big thing, because we feel like when we meet local people, it's really authentic. So that these type of open platforms will provide, this opportunity to move forward in this type of things. And also understanding what we eat, what we have. This is just a little, also image to sort of put forward so many things that we will be able, to create, and services, and especially just imagine for health monitoring oneself, in a specific trip. So that these type of measurements, we believe that support, not just our understanding, but also the possibilities of getting new services and companies enriching our experiences. Finally, a note for scholars, since I don't know how many scholars, or whether everybody in this room are scholars, professors from the academia, or are more technical, or coming from the private companies. Something for the scholars. I think that we need to move forward in this theory building and identifying constructs, concepts that could help us, to move forward in theory building and also scientific procedures in social sciences. Sometimes when we think about what are the main concepts, measures, tools, and theory, I think it's not clear whether it's a theory or that is a faulty, or measures, or what's exactly going on. So I think measures are social constructs, and the process of gaining standardization around measures is very much a social process. So that here also, if we could get into some standards or a common understanding, we'll be able to move forward faster. Scientific approach and technology should play a central role, in my opinion, in this development of standards and common understanding. And basically, because then we could compare what's going on. Because in the example I gave you about my grandma, actually a journey of a day, it seems like it's something very stable as you know, the time that we can allocate for a large trip. So that perhaps there are some, in the substract, some structural things that have not changed along centuries, but other ones, yes. So, well, finally, I hope I have 7 seconds. Generated some thought that we might kick around in further discussions as we seek to understand common ways to address tourism as a discipline. Thank you very much.